What's up? What's up? Hello, good people. It is Wednesday. So what does that mean? It's time for LinkedIn Live with Nana. I swear, y'all, I'm gonna get some theme music going. I said in 2023, I'm gonna get some theme music because I feel like it's necessary. But I'm so excited. I hope you all are doing well today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you might be in the world. Y'all already know the drill. Drop in the chat, drop in the comments. Let me know where you are watching or listening from. And as always, if you're catching it on the replay, drop replay in the comment in the chat because we want to know that too. All right. So, definitely excited for our conversation today. I mean, it's been so great the past couple of months, Black History Month, Women's History Month, just like highlighting dope Black women that I've had the phenomenal opportunity to meet, to connect with in all kinds of spaces. And this fabulous woman that you see on the screen is no different. So we're going to get right into it. And today we're talking about what to quit before you quit, which is I just love that title that we came up with. It's so good. So I'm going to introduce this beautiful woman. Her name is LaPora Lindsey. And LaPora is a highly qualified and accomplished certified workforce development professional who's gained recognition as an inspirational speaker. She's also the author of the book Bottom of the Food Chain. She's dedicated to enhancing workplace performance and productivity by promoting the importance of individual value. With her extensive experience and expertise, LaPora assists her clients in recognizing their self-worth and utilizing rejection as a strategic tool to propel their careers forward. We gonna get into all of that today. She incorporates various proven techniques and strategies from diverse educational and experiential backgrounds in her coaching and training services. So, hello, Miss LaPora. How you doing?
Good, Nana. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Absolutely. We've got Tashana coming in from Texas. Anika's joining us as well. Hello. So listen, it's so funny because I think I think this is how we initially connected. That there was, I think it was like a LinkedIn article that was about self-worth, and
Yeah.
we were both in the article, and then it was like, oh, let's like reach out and connect with each other. So I was like, and curious about your space, and I think it was is reciprocated, and then we started chatting, and I was like, yeah, just with the links around women and how we feel about ourselves and how we enter
hmm
different spaces, especially as it pertains to work from a career perspective and progressing a career. And then, in my space from a style and confidence perspective. But I'm so curious to hear in your own words how you define self-worth.
Yeah. So self-worth was something that for the longest time I used to tie it into, and I know we'll get into this a little bit later, but I used to tie it into like my self-esteem and how happy I was with myself. But
Mm-hmm.
then it was probably around 2019 when it really started to change. And now I define it more so as being like my own best friend. And like when you got a
Mm.
best friend, it's like even on those days when you're putting your own self down and you're talking about like how is your best friend really going to talk to you? Like what are the things that your best friend is going to say to you that's going to encourage you and going to remind you about what you bring to the table? So in
Yeah.
2019, actually it was longer than that. So I have alopecia areata, which is essentially sometimes I'll wake up in the morning, there's just like literally like a big old bald patch in my head. And it's like
Mm.
smooth as a baby's butt. Like I don't know where the hair go. I pick up my pillow, the hair is gone. Like where did it go?
Really?
Yes. So as you can see now, I just decided I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go bald. But for the longest
Mm-hmm.
time, I wore wigs all the time. And I wore
Mm.
wigs because it gave me that confidence. And I also felt like I had like power and authority. I was like, yeah, look at my hair. I get to decide, what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And long story short, my wig fell off a couple times in public.
Mm.
And
Ah.
I was like, this is embarrassing. I'm tired of it. And so
Mm.
at that point, I decided that I was no longer going to wear wigs. And Nana, when I tell you that it took a minute, but it really changed how I allowed the opinions of others to determine how I felt about myself. And at
Mm,
that point was when I decided that I'm going to do this 100% for me. And I always have value with or without hair. Like it doesn't matter.
there it
So that
is.
was just kind of like
Yes.
the starting point of that.
Woo! Listen. Wow. That is so intense. Um, so powerful. Like that. It's very vulnerable. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and quite honestly, there are a couple of individuals who I've met in this LinkedIn community who are coming to mind who have shared some similar challenges with alopecia, and their own journeys in that space. Um, and it's just, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations, and a lot of things have come up around hair and Black women,
Mm,
right? And whether it's
hmm.
professional and wearing your hair natural and all these things, and so much identity tied to hair. And I
Yes.
and I you know and I'm always so curious about women who are in spaces where whether they choose because of health reasons or just personal reasons to go
Hmm.
bald, right? And wondering how that impacts and what kind of relationship you have with hair, and how that affects, how you feel that you are desirable or worthy, right? In
Yes.
any kind of
Yes.
space. So it's so interesting to hear your experience in that space. um yeah, so again, thank you for that. And one thing, when you were chatting, one thing you were talking about when you were mentioning the self-worth piece,
Hmm.
um was around the self-confidence element, and how
Yeah.
you on your journey. And I love what you said, self-worth is your best friend. Can we get into that? So one, I'm curious on how you even get to a space where that is like I'm kind of even sitting with that to really
Yeah.
digest that, like where it's another entity, where I'm like, okay, like you and me, we're gonna be buddies, like we
Right.
got to be on this journey together. So I'm curious around how you even got to that space where you looked at it in that way, and then how you see it different from self-confidence.
Gotcha. So there are like three terms that people typically use interchangeably. Like they say self confidence, self esteem, and self worth. And sometimes people will define it as being the same, right? Which is fine. I'm not saying it's wrong, but just from my own personal lens,
Mhm.
I have separated them. So self confidence, you can think of it more as competence. So when you feel that you are capable of completing a task. And with self confidence, sometimes it happens. You get that self confidence before the action. Like you're like, oh, I know this. I got this. This is no problem. Like,
Right,
please,
right.
got it. Sometimes it happens after the fact where it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do that. But yeah, I got it.
Mhm.
I got that self confidence. Self esteem is more so of how happy you are with how you view yourself, right? And this can come
Mm.
with success or challenges. So for instance, if you which there's nothing negative about it, but let's say, oh, you apply for a job, right? And
Mhm.
you get an interview for a job, your self-esteem is going to increase at that
Yeah.
point because yes, they want me. I'm happy with myself because I did that, right? And there may
Mm.
also be some confidence there as well because of how you wrote your resume. So that competence or that knowledge and skill level.
Right.
The lower self esteem comes into play when more so you are looking at the job and you don't get hired for the job. And at that point, your self esteem is going to decrease because you're feeling like nobody wants to hire me. Nobody wants me for this job, right?
Mm.
Self worth, no matter what, whether you succeed, whether you fail, your self worth is going to stay the same the entire time because it
Mm.
is your value. Your value is not going to depreciate over time. It is always there and it is always going to. You deserve to be here. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to be who you are. And that doesn't matter whether you get the job or not. That doesn't change how deserving you are. And so that's why I separate it because
Mhm.
we look at it as if you look at it as well, now I'm not, my self-worth is now I don't have anything worth of value just because somebody rejected you. But no, absolutely not. Your value is always there. But that's it. I'm just gonna be quiet now.
Yes. No, no, ma'am. Don't be quiet. Don't be quiet. That is such a great distinction. I've never heard that broken down in that way. Um, and I want to acknowledge we've got Gertrude here who's saying good morning, and Tisha who's also saying good morning. Hello, hello. Let
Good
y'all
morning.
let me know. Like, drop in the chat, and please, feel free to share. Like, y'all already know this is a safe space. If you have had any of those challenges that LaPora was just breaking down in terms of your self-worth versus self-esteem or self-confidence, and just even drop in the chat which one is the space that where you've had challenges. If you've had challenge with self-worth, drop it in the chat. If you've had a challenge with self-confidence, drop it in the chat. If you've had challenges with self-esteem, drop that in the chat. If you've had challenges with all of them, drop all in the chat. Like, it's all good, because okay. Because I know at any point in time we all have had struggles with all of
Yes.
these elements. But I love what you said about self-worth being your value and how it's constant, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a light bulb. That's a light bulb. The consistency element of just knowing, like, it doesn't matter whether I get the job or I don't, or if I get the promotion or I don't, right? The rejection will come in all kinds of form, but I have to be, I got to keep my value set around who I am. I got to keep
Yes.
that firm. Like, that's a big one. Like, yep. Anika saying, keep going. Good morning, Letitia. Gertrude is here. What she said. Yes, I had all of them. Okay. Deshauna saying rejection always hits you in the self-esteem.
Yes.
We're gonna get into the rejection piece in a second. That's really great. Yeah, Portia saying drop the gems on the people, right? And so it 100% is resonating. So let's to Tashana's comment around rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, child, rejection will come in all the forms, like big, small, in between. And I know
Yes.
this is a big piece in the work that you do with your clients. So tell me about how rejection shows up with the women that you work with, and how do you guide them through it so that they can maybe even keep their self-worth intact?
Yeah. So typically the women that I work with, rejection, it doesn't come in as like a direct, hey, it's here and it's facing me right now. It's typically when I meet with clients, it's typically something in the past, honestly, that they don't really notice. And it's real subtle, like a real sneaky little rejector just popping up in places.
Right.
And how it how it
Right.
typically shows itself is when we start talking about, for instance, if they're looking for a new job, or if they're feeling like they want to do something new, then it's okay, well, what's stopping you right there? Like what's going on here? Like, what are the challenge and obstacles? And then rejection comes up as far as, well, in the past, when I have tried to apply for a job, nobody would hire me. Or in the past, when I had tried to share a new idea in a meeting, everybody shut me down. And so because of that, I don't think that it's necessary to share. Or there's going to be, I've gotten to this job now, I've been here maybe 2 weeks, and other people have been there 2 years. So that's that self-rejection even that sneaks in. So
that's deep. Yes. I just had a thing. Like, okay. Yep.
Yeah. So it's that rejection from others that then causes that in the present, when they start looking for different ways to move forward in their career, now they've kind of taken that on themselves. And so instead of acting on it, they're just going to do the work for other people and just say, well, I'm just going to reject myself. They don't say it like that, but that's what their actions say.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try at this point because I don't want you to reject me. And the crazy thing about it is with our brains, it's a lot easier for us to keep in our mind that, well, if I did try, people may reject me, but they also may say yes. That's a lot easier for us to accept than for us to take the action and to be rejected in real time. Like that's painful. And so
Right.
because of that, a lot of times we won't rock the boat. We'll sit still because dealing with the possibility of rejection is easier than dealing with the actual rejection. And so because of that, we avoid it a lot of times if we need to or if we want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Listen. I know because we got facts. The hashtag facts. A real big talk.
Yeah.
That's so is man, and it's so y'all. I don't know if y'all are feeling this, but I'm just like it's like LaPora already has a very calming spirit. So her delivery in chatting, I don't know if y'all feel this, but it's just so it's just like it's subtle but distinct. But then you're just like, yeah, actually, I, I did that yesterday, where
Oh.
where I was
Mhm.
afraid to do something or say something. And I was like, no, it don't matter no way. But because of that fear of like internally, if you dig a little deeper, right? A lot of times we don't
Mhm.
want to dig a little deeper because we dig deeper and you're like, oh, there's some pain, there's some stuff, there's some more rejection in there, right? But it makes more things come to light. Let me go through the chat because the chat is kind of popping. Um, we've got Deshauna say self-worth for her is tied to her spirituality. I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm.
I love the wonderfully made.
Yes.
Tisha said her battle is having a healthy sense of self worth and confidence at the same time, having that perceived as arrogance.
Mm. Okay.
Right? That's very interesting. And you know what? And I would venture to say that there are other Black women who who get that too, right? Who get
Yeah.
that, right? Like you come in and you have your self-worth is high because you do value who you are as a person, the work that you bring forth, right? Like all the elements of self-confidence and self-esteem are in a really healthy and strong place. And then of course
Yeah.
others become intimidated, right? Like you can
Yeah.
get the angry Black woman, right? Like you get
Yeah.
all the monikers, right? And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
really? Just because I value myself and maybe you don't as much, but you see that, don't even get into a whole thing. But I do think that is very interesting. And feel free to chime in if there's anything that's
Yeah.
coming up for you.
Well, as I look at this comment, there's so much about self-worth, and of course there's no way in the world we can cover it all today. But
Yeah.
one of the things as well, and this may seem almost counterintuitive, but when it comes to self-worth, here's another crazy thing about it, is that even though it's self-worth, it is actually focused on the benefit that you provide to others. And I don't mean that in a subservient form. But so let me think of, so there's a famous saying. So Stephen Covey talks about it in
Mm-hmm.
Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the things is being more interested than being interesting. And that's a really good value or like a sub factor of self-worth. So think about it this way. When you know that you bring value, there is there is no need to, like when you're in conversations, to put the conversation back on you, because you already know that you're awesome and that you got the skills and you got it going on. So there's no need for it. We don't have to focus this conversation on me because I already know that, right? Let's focus on you. Let's focus on you as the individual. And when you do that, because you know that you are enough that you don't have to talk about it, now you start putting the attention on other people to help them see it in themselves, right? And then because of that, they then start to see the value in you. And then it comes off differently. And I can't really answer like specifics without knowing specifics, but that's just as a general term for self-worth. The
Mm-hmm.
more we focus on how what we have, how our value is beneficial to others, is the more others will start to see it as beneficial. And they will start to see it as less intimidating because
Mm-hmm.
we are, and it's so, oh my gosh, I feel like I shouldn't even went down this rabbit hole. But no, it's
That's
because
all right.
I don't want to make it over technical, but it's there's just something about when you're confident enough in who you are that you don't have to remind people about it, because they will be reminded when you are around them because of how you carry yourself and how you speak to them,
Mm.
and how you put the attention on them, they're going to remember you and come back to you. I don't know if that's clear or not. So I'm
It's 100% clear. It's 100%
okay.
clear. And as you're saying that, it's making me think about um a Maya Angelou quote, and I'm gonna paraphrase, but basically, people don't always remember what you say, but they
Yeah.
always remember how you made them feel.
Hmm.
And I think in you sharing that, that's what I'm hearing. Like it's a gem when you are able to simply just be curious and in tune to whoever you're speaking with, right? And it's so funny because I think this is something that some are big personalities, right? And you got, yes, people in the chat are like very clear, so clear, okay, they feeling you. Like what you're saying around that focus on you, because it's so easy when we feel sometimes insecure, or like, well, I gotta add too, well, I gotta hear my perspective too.
Yeah.
And you take you and it's, oh man, there's so many things, girl. I got multiple things based on what you said that's coming to my mind. I'm like, yes, this is what makes so sense. What LaPora said is so on point. I'm gonna stop and pause, because same, I don't go down the rabbit hole. But yes, what you shared, I think, is right and exact, um, about being more in tune with the person and making it about them and being interested in them versus
Hmm.
being focused on you being interesting. Okay. Yeah, yes, drop the gems. When you're confident in who you are, you don't have to remind them. Come on, I love it. That's a bar. That is a whole book. Okay, so if you need a new book, people telling you what they want. Okay, and then what I want to say, yeah, teacher, this is real. I have to tell myself that I'm not responsible for people's feelings about me. Self
Mm.
confidence is tied to how much I pour into myself. Am I happy with my achievements, knowledge, or where I am in life? Y'all, I love this. I love what's happening in the chat. When you know you bring value, you don't have to put the focus back on you. LaPora,
Mm.
hashtag LaPora said it. I love it. Come on. This is so good. Well, I wanna move into even breaking down a little bit more around the title of our talk today, about what to quit before you quit. Because when
Mm.
we were chatting before, I think we were chatting a lot about the women that you work with in their career and helping them achieve
Yeah.
their career goals, right? And how there's so much emphasis on what you need to do to get to that next goal, right?
Right.
And sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes you don't know where to start, right? Sometimes you don't know how you're supposed to show up, right? There's so many things to think about. And then in particular, if you are in a space where you want to leave your job or make a
Hmm.
change, right? So when when we talk about that, I'm curious about, for the women that you even work with, what does that look like? That feeling of maybe feeling unfulfilled in
Mm.
your career, and you're like, okay, I want to quit. Like, what does that look like? What does that sound like?
Oh gosh, it sounds like so many things. A lot of insecurities, for one, unfortunately. And I
Mhm.
oftentimes hear I'm inadequate or I'm not enough in this job. So when they're unfulfilled, it's because they're feeling like either the type of position that they have isn't adequate or the work that they're doing isn't adequate. And so they
Mm,
need to quit. They need to get out of there. But one of the
mm,
first things that I like to ask, and Nana, you and I had this conversation when we were talking about, like being fulfilled and what does that mean? And because
mhm.
unfulfilled means different things to different people, right?
Yeah.
So one of the best ways to be able to really get down to the root of it, and I studied Lean Six Sigma, and I don't know if this is part of the Lean or the Six part. I don't know, but
I love it. I love
There's
it.
this it's a business theory, but it's
Yes.
so very helpful in our personal lives and even with our careers, and it's the 5 whys. And so when you're feeling unfulfilled, it's really important to determine why you feel unfulfilled. Because like I said, is it that you're feeling unfulfilled in the position itself, like the title or the role? Is it that you're feeling unfulfilled with the salary? Is it
Mm-hmm.
that you are feeling unfulfilled because your peers are, you know, the types of
Yeah.
jobs that they have? So is there that comparison there? Surface
Mm-hmm.
level, I'll call it a surface level comparison. Like, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, you start off with asking yourself, why am I unfulfilled in my work? Because when somebody else asks you that, it can be like intrusive, like, Nana, why are you unfulfilled in your job? Like, it's just kind of like that's a bit intrusive.
Right. Right.
So this is a way for you to ask yourself. So if I'm unfulfilled in my job, why am I unfulfilled in my job? The salary. Okay. So why is the salary unfulfilling in my job? Is it because I'm not able to make enough in order
Mm-hmm.
to take care of my needs in addition to my luxuries? Like what is it? And then you ask yourself why again and again until you get to that fifth why. And
Mm-hmm.
once you get to that fifth why, that is when you kind of get to the root of what you are really unfulfilled about. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes with that, you will find that moving to another job isn't necessarily the first thing that you need to do. There may be some other things that you need to address before you get there. So we can't just skip to unfulfilled, quit the job. It's unfulfilled. Why am I unfulfilled? What specifically is this feeling? Why am I getting this feeling? And then explore that. Don't be afraid to explore that before making that next decision.
Yes. Yes. I love that so much. And I put on the screen asking yourself that question that you posed around
Hmm.
what is it for me? And I love the self-reflection of that, right? Um, and and Letitia saying thank you for mentioning needs and luxuries
Mm-hmm.
around what you may have that job for and how that takes care of you.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love that piece around asking yourself and then seeing what comes up because it may be tied to your self-worth, right?
Right.
And you might discover that really it ain't got so much to do about the job, but there's some things happening with me that I
Mm-hmm.
have to work through, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a super super powerful question. um and I mean, don't even get into a whole life thing because I'm like this might be why you feeling unfulfilled at any point in time in your life. You might be posing this question to yourself and just taking a beat or a pause to see like what's
Yes.
coming up with you. Because like you said, it might be a surface level comparison around what others have and where you might feel like you don't, which could be bringing up feelings of lack for you that you
Mm-hmm.
might need to be addressing, or just any of these different elements. So I think that's a y'all know me. I be here for a takeaway. Like
You know what?
drop into
One other thing
that.
too, Nana,
Yeah.
is that when we start to do like the I'm going to do this because of this, then we don't even address the root issue. And so we're just addressing like the symptoms. And so what does that mean? Like after we like go to another job, if you've never addressed it, what's going to happen? That same issue is going to come up again and you're
Yes.
going to be unfulfilled again
Again.
until you really figure out like what is it? Like we got to figure
Yes.
this out.
Yes. Yes.
Covering it up.
Listen, like, and you know what? And even on a parallel note, um, because there's always so many connections. This is why I like chatting with women in the spaces that they do what they do, and how they bring value to folks. Because you can always see how there's just so much overlap in our work because you're dealing with people and all the things
Yes.
that come up with people, and we're all people and we all have these experiences. And I was just chatting with a client yesterday, and she was having some negative personal talk about her body and was, and kept saying things, just even I think it subconsciously probably always did it, but just always, what's the term? Self-deprecating, right? And just
Okay.
saying
Yeah.
different things. Oh, but my hips are just so wide, so I don't even fool with that kind of thing. Oh, yeah, I've never been able to wear that because I'm just short. And just constant. I'm just like, why do you do that? Why do you
Yeah.
say that? Like, what's do you know you're saying that? And it
Mm.
becomes like second nature, and you just repeatedly do that. And so if you do, it doesn't matter what you wear, you're going to show up and there's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be something that
Yes.
you find that you feel unfulfilled about, that you do not have the worth, the value, the confidence is not there for you because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't dealt with the things that are underlying. And
Yes.
it's that same notion carries everywhere, the job, the relationships, everything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you really can't get to that space where I think where you really, embrace a comfortability with yourself if you're asking yourself, why am I unfulfilled, and you're not dealing with what's coming up.
Right.
you
Absolutely.
know
You said
um
it.
just like, yep, many times getting to the root issue will reveal some truths that we don't want to face. That's Tashana,
Oof.
100%, right?
Yes.
So good, so good. So let's let's talk about, because this was something that we were chatting about too, is some of the like hasty decisions
Mm.
sometimes folks will get into
Yeah.
when they're like, you know what, I asked myself, why am I unfulfilled, and I got the answer, and the answer was, I don't make enough money, so I'm about to quit. What's the new thing?
Oh,
Like you were sharing earlier, sometimes
yeah.
we hear the answers, or things come up for ourselves, and then we immediately go to make some hasty decisions.
Yeah.
So talk to us about why that's happening, and how that could be, maybe detrimental and maybe not the next best step to take.
Yeah. Well, because it's so hasty and it's like like, you know me, I love psychology.
Hmm.
Because I believe it really affects us more than we realize on like a daily basis, or maybe we do realize it. But one of the things is that like whenever we're in like a stressful situation, number one, like our brains think about negative things like Velcro. Like if there's
Hmm.
something negative, it's gonna stick to our brain.
Oh.
And the reason why is because our brains are actually trying to help us. They're trying to, our brains are our brains, as if we more than have more than one brain. We all have one brain, but for
Right,
each of us,
right, right. I got you.
our brain is maintaining that, keeping that information as a means to, whenever you are faced with a situation similar to that in the future, hey,
Mhm.
remember, this is what can happen. So when that happens, we typically go into a fight or flight response. Freeze is a newer term, but it's typically a
Hmm.
fight or flight, whether we're just
Tell me
gonna
about
flee our mind.
freeze too. What?
What's that?
I remember about freeze.
You've
Yeah.
never heard
What?
about freeze? Oh wow, okay.
Uh-uh.
So for the fight or flight, it is, like, all right, here we go. Like I'm ready. Like let's go. This stressful situation, I'm gonna defeat it, right? And then the
Yeah.
flight is I'm running away, I'm gonna avoid it.
Right.
Freeze is more so where we just kind of like stay and we don't do anything. We just kind of, so it's avoiding but staying there, not really leaving the situation, but just kind of ignoring the situation a little bit for the
Mm.
freeze.
Mhm.
So when it comes to that, and let's take that same mindset and let's take that with the hasty decisions. And if you're fighting or freezing, then you aren't really addressing it, because you're
Mhm.
trying to do anything but address it head on. And when I say address it, I mean take the time to take a step back, figure out, why is this situation so stressful for me?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Explore that. If you got to go into those five whys again, go back into those five whys, but explore
Right.
that and determine, like, what else? Like, why is this making me so uncomfortable? And why do I feel the need that I need to go to another location or another
Mm,
company in
mm,
order to resolve this? Why is that the only solution? And I can't
mm.
answer that now, but I can talk to, like, if it was one-on-one person, I could probably give you an answer.
Right. This is the fight, flight, or freeze. I really
Analysis
love
paralysis.
the frame. Yes, yeah, exactly. Right. You see, Portia saying freeze sounds like analysis paralysis.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, that like I mean, literally the freeze, right? Trying to defrost the freeze. Letitia. That's great, girl. Because that
uh,
freeze, I was just like deer headlights. So you just like, I don't know what to do. Like I could leave, I could stay. Like I would just be here,
yeah.
right? That's so interesting around if whatever if one of those three is your reaction, this then it's still diving into the why, right? Why do I feel like I'm like, whatever, man. Y'all won't. No, we about to get because you know that maybe that's just my
Yes.
version of fight, but
Hey, yeah, do it.
listen, right? Like but it is like why are you upset about that? What's up? Because
Right.
I think like you're sharing, and it's making me think about how like situations will come up at work. Like it is not a space where life is not everything is just hunky dory, right? Like
Right.
challenges will come up. But I think maybe what I'm hearing from you is, how are you at this space? And this probably goes back to that self worth where you were just talking about that like even keel element, right? Like how do you get
Hmm.
back to neutral, right? Like how
Right.
do you get back to that space where you're just like, I'm here, I'm good, I'm excellent, like I'm doing my thing. Like, yeah, there's a challenge. Okay, cool. That person got on my nerves. I do think I deserve more money, but like I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna put a plan in place to get it. But like you still kind of keep that even keel, like that's what is
Yeah.
resonating with me that I'm keep coming back to as you're talking. Um, and feel free if you wanted to jump in there and share any
No, no,
specific.
yo, you got it. You got it.
So I'm like, this is just y'all. These are just my gems. As y'all share y'all gems in the chat, I'm like, okay, this is what's coming up for me as LaPora is breaking this down. So let's
For sure.
so let's get into this. These are good. Makes you think about why I don't like jobs. None of them. Listen. So listen. So that's the thing. That's a real thing because I don't know. The workplace can be so rough. Like the workplace
Mhm.
can be so rough, and even just have. I
Yeah.
mean, I know Portia is speaking in jest, but that is so real. That so many people like. What is it when you have the scary Sundays and you're thinking about going to work on Monday and you're just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, like what is up with that? That is so awful. If that's how you feel week after week. Listen, Gertrude said yes. Portia, I understand your statement. Um, Anika said being frozen kept me stagnated, which further exacerbated the feelings of self doubt, lack of
Mm,
self worth. Oh, that self doubt piece.
yeah.
Hmm. That's another self element there that comes
Yes.
into play.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you want to share anything on the self doubt tip?
Sorry, I'm beating myself to clear my throat.
It's all good.
uh, yeah. So yeah, with that self doubt, that is, oh, gosh, I don't even know where to start with that one. That is always it's an underlying, and it's almost like a future um basis, because we don't, with that self doubt, we a lot of times we don't even give ourselves the chance because of the doubt. So it's kind of best friends with self rejection, where it's like, I don't think that this is gonna work out, or if I try it, most likely people aren't going to um allow me that opportunity. So I doubt that this is going to work out. So let me not even try. Kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, as far as the the thought or the possibility of being rejected, and the possibility of being accepted, is a lot easier for us to deal with than for us to actually try it and to be faced with in real time what rejection feels like, because it's painful when you think about how we describe it. Like, how do we describe rejection? Oh my gosh, I feel like somebody stabbed me in my chest. Like, I feel like somebody like
Yeah.
stepped on my toe. Like, I got a headache. Like, all of those different things. And so with that self-doubt, we don't we don't want to experience those feelings. And so it's like, I doubt that I can make this work. So I'm just gonna go with what I know and go with what I'm comfortable with, because I'm
Yeah.
sure that will work. But in the process, we're also rejecting ourselves, not giving
Mhm.
ourselves that full opportunity.
Yeah. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. Um, well, let's get into, giving some people some things to leave behind, some additional gems. You already done dropped a whole
Yeah.
bunch. But break down in your space and your own thought process what you think it's important that people stop doing, that they make sure that they quit before they actually decide to leave a job or a role or organization.
Yeah. So the first thing, and it's probably like the umbrella of it all, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, was the surface level comparison. That's a big one. And what I mean by surface level comparison is, when we have, unless you're like best friends with your coworker and you talk to them all the time about everything, or your peers, the amount of information that you're going to have to make your decision based off of what you see is going to be very limited. So when we say, "Hey, I think I'm going to quit this job because so and so did it and they did just fine," like your coworker that you don't even talk to, you don't know what so and so is going through. You don't know what their financial situation look like. You don't know what their family situation look like. You don't know none of that, but you still gonna quit your job because so and so did it. No, we have to stop that. We have to instead, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with comparison, because people compare all the time. When we do like products, and that's how you make a successful product,
Mhm.
is because you do a comparison and you do your research and you analyze and you evaluate. So instead of just doing this surface level comparison, if so and so quit their job, find out as much as you can. What does their situation look like? What were their reasons for quitting their job? Talk to somebody else, and then figure out how that works for you. I can't tell you how many times this is in the past with my with different jobs that I had with my business, where I was guilty of a surface level comparison, and I did things just because somebody else did it, and I'm up here figuring like, why am I struggling? And then I figure out that they have more resources than me. Like, well, that's why you succeeded. Like, and I'm over here struggling. So let's figure that out in advance.
Right, right,
the second the second
girl.
thing was that
Keep going. I'm just over here testifying. Break down the
what
second thing. Please break down the second.
one of the second things, and this is one thing that when I first say, a lot of people don't really agree with me with, but let me explain it, y'all. Let me explain it. The second thing, what you should stop doing before you quit your job, is stop only sticking to your job. So hold on, wait a minute. I'm going to say it one more time and I'm going to explain where I'm coming from. Stop only
Mm,
sticking to your job. So when I recommend to people that you should do tasks outside of your job, I'm not recommending it on the benefit of just the company. That is a benefit, but I'm
mm,
recommending it on the benefit of you. And once again, I say this from experience. I used to
mhm,
volunteer for an organization, and I would volunteer like 20 hours a week with the hopes of they were going to hire me. And it was a
mm.
verbal understanding that I would
Wow.
be able to get hired when a job opening came. Long story short, that did not happen. They didn't even post the job. They went and hired somebody else. And I found
Mm,
out about it because just looking at the reports, which I had access to as a volunteer, because I was a really good volunteer. After
right.
that moment, I said, I will not volunteer for any task, whether it is at a a company that I'm paid to work at or a regular volunteer unless there is also a benefit for me.
Mm,
So
mm,
where like understanding what do I want in the future? Where do I see myself? And what opportunities can I take on, whether through a volunteer basis that is also going to help me with that? Because here, well, I think Portia said it. I know that's right. Get what you need from the yes, you have to get
yeah.
what you need before you
Mhm,
quit. Get what you need. So if you know that you are looking for a job that's in a different realm, start volunteering for that at the job that you're at now.
right.
And then when you're ready
Right.
to quit, guess what? You've been working out a place for 5 years, but at the last moment, you started volunteering for this particular thing. They don't know that you haven't been doing that for 5 years unless they interview you and they ask you how long you've been doing that particular task, right? But you
Mhm,
now have that on your resume and you can use that.
mhm,
So
mhm.
don't just stick to your job.
I
And
love
then the
it.
last thing is don't just like, I know that some of us are intuitive and some of us are more so we go based off of sensing. So the
Mhm.
last thing is more so of checking all the resources, checking what you feel, but also checking what you see. So
Mm,
doing like a full scope check before
okay.
you make that decision to quit. Is it something where you are getting negative vibes? Is it something where you have previous experiences that you have notated? Is it something where your coworkers are also struggling in those same areas where you're just like, this environment is not a place where I can grow? So doing that full scope check in order to determine, okay, based off of all of my evaluations and assessments, it is now time for me to move. And this is where I plan to go. So have some type of action plan, but yes, do that full scope check. And so
Yeah.
those are the three primary things that people need to stop doing or start doing before they
Mhm.
quit their job. You got to get your, if possible, if it's not too toxic and you can hold on just a little bit longer,
Yeah.
get those things done first,
Right.
and then you can quit.
Come on. Come on. Like I'm here for this, and the people are here for this too. Letitia said that reciprocal gain check. I
Yes.
like that, right? Like really making sure, like LaPora was saying, like that you go into the job and you get get what you need, and you
Mm-hmm.
do the things that are going to help you in the long run, right? So not just staying in the prescribed tasks of the 9 to 5, right? But seeking out what other things that might be available to you that you could do to help you get to the next to get to that
Yeah.
next level.
Let it be
Um,
you.
let it benefit you. Come
Yes.
on, okay? Like, yep, environmental scans are vital. Get rid of that's above my pay grade. Use your role to explore. I like that perspective, Anika, because that is something. Sometimes we might think that something is like maybe there's even like these invisible barriers that we put on sometimes around like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be stepping out of my lane or going over here and doing this when like that's exactly what you should be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is exploring. Um I love it. People are saying this is exciting. Right on their dime. We feel that. Do it. Right. Explore the company on their dime. I love that. Okay, this has been so good, y'all. If this has been helpful for you in any way, drop helpful in the chat. And definitely let us know what your big takeaways were from this conversation and how this could help you, especially if you were in a place or you are in a place where you are thinking, I need to make a move. I need to exit stage right. Let us know how this conversation is giving you some things to think about before you do that. So LaPora, please tell the people how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you, because y'all know we don't be talking to nobody who ain't worth talking to. We talk to people who are going to, I think, just make you think about things in a different way that are going to give you something that's thought provoking or just just make your face ugly mug for a minute. Be like, ooh, like I felt it, right? Like I'm so serious. Like I love to have conversations with people like this because I think that it can be helpful to you wherever you might be, especially for women, especially for Black women, in helping you navigate your careers and just navigate your own personal journeys. So LaPora, if the people are interested in working with you and getting to know you more, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yes, so I am on LinkedIn, LaPora Lindsey there. That's that's my primary use platform. So they can feel free to reach out to me there. I'm also on Instagram, same thing, LaPora Lindsey, no fancy name, just LaPora Lindsey everywhere. If you Google LaPora Lindsey, you will find me.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what
I'm
I'm
there.
talking about. I
And
love
then
it.
the
I
same
love
thing,
it.
website, LaPora Lindsey.
Yes, I love it. We getting so many helpfuls in the chat. Absolutely helpful, very helpful, helpful. This was absolutely much needed, and the information was so valuable. We thank God for both of you for dropping the gems. Biggest takeaway: stop sticking to only my job or what I know. Trust myself and know my value. So helpful.
Mm,
So I love it. Thank you, LaPora, for coming to talk with us
thank you.
today.
Thank you.
So appreciate it. Listen, y'all, we want y'all to have a fabulous rest of the day. And get out there and show the people what your self worth is. Show them what your value is. I'm now I'm like moving into the day. I feel a little bit more inspired. Me moving through my day. I'm gonna let my value shine. All right, y'all. Have a great day. Peace.